Hi, I'm Jen Liddy. I am your host for tonight's Module 2 training. And I'm just trying to get the tech to come up so that you can share, so you can see my screen. Here we go. Okay. I always forget to do this part. So I have to pin my face and then share my screen. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Module 2 of the COVID-19 Small Business Resilience Planning Training course. So this is an ambitious course. This is just one module in a course of 7 modules. And it's designed by WISE to help women business owners at no cost to them prepare for and respond to a pandemic and the economic effects of this pandemic. My name is Jen Liddy. I'm a business development coach, and I'm helping WISE by doing these trainings. We're doing them about once a week. We do them in English and we do them in Spanish, and they're completely free to you. And if you can't catch the live version, you can always catch the recorded version. So if you know somebody who could benefit from these trainings, please feel free to share them. So what we know at WISE is that this pandemic has not only affected you, it's affected your workplace, your employees. And so we are going to cover all sorts of things in these modules, everything from workplace safety and finances to capital to cyber threats, talk about managing employees, which is actually what we're going to talk about tonight, and remote customer service, which is where we're headed right now. So module 2 is where we are, and this is all about managing your business remotely. Now, the thing is, you may not have expected to manage your business remotely. You may not ever have wanted to manage your business remotely, but this is part of the landscape that we're in right now. And so tonight we're going to talk about best practices, including technology that you can consider, plus tips for engaging with your staff and your customers. We're going to talk about how to make managing a remote workforce easier when you have strategies in place to help you be mindful of the work-life balance of your employees and yourself, along with the needs and well-being of your customers. So this module is designed to help you take remote work and remote managing into the future. You will see me looking at my notes here, but I am here with you 100%. If you have any questions at any time, please put them in the chat. Uh-oh. That's not what I want this to do. Okay. So let's get started. Oh my goodness. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay.
Hear you, Jen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Okay. Okay. So the problem is remote work may be completely new to you, and it may be something that makes you feel a little nervous, stressed out, anxious, or overwhelmed. And it can be stressful and hard. And so we have included this quotation from good old Winston Churchill about remembering that difficulties mastered are opportunities won. And every time you move through something difficult in your business, in your personal life, it really does make you stronger so that you can handle the next thing that comes. Every time you handle something that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought to you and you conquer it, it makes you better for the next problem that comes up. So we're going to talk tonight about how to create new opportunities for yourself out of the problems that have come up and the challenges that have come up in COVID-19. Okay, so by the end of this module, there are some things that you should be able to do, including the very first thing we're going to talk about is what other WISE women are struggling with so that you can see that you're not alone. The second thing we're going to talk about tonight is how to pivot your business with technology. The third will be how to apply technology specifically to your business. Then we're going to talk about how to engage and communicate with your people remotely. We're going to talk about how to manage people remotely. What are the best practices for that? We're going to help you think about how to define policies for remote work, because when you have policies in place, everything's a lot easier. And lastly, we're going to talk about how to bring teleworking or remote work, it's all the same thing, into the future. In our first objective, we're going to listen to what some women from WISE who were interviewed had to say about their experiences with COVID-19 and the pandemic. And you're actually going to learn that you're not alone, that you probably share a lot of what these other women have dealt with. The first thing that the women talked about in our focus groups, we wanted to know what they were dealing with as we went into shutdown and then we moved into isolation. And the biggest thing that we heard was that women were very grateful that technology was available to them. Even though sometimes technology can be glitchy or slow or there's a learning curve to it, everybody was really grateful for technology. They found that social media was absolutely vital for themselves because it helped them not only get real-time access to information, it also helped them access other people in a time of great isolation. A lot of the women that we interviewed to find out, well, what did you struggle with? What can we help you with? They told us that they used technology to widen their circle or their network and meet people that maybe they had never talked to before, had never known existed before. And they were also very grateful for video conferencing. They talked about that. We all know that it can be tiring to be on video all day and to be in a video conferencing. There's the fatigue of looking at yourself, the fatigue of looking at people's backgrounds, the fatigue of being on all day. But they were really very grateful for that because it allowed them to stay connected and keep working at a time when they weren't sure what else to do. The women that we interviewed also told us they were really grateful for relationships that they had been able to rekindle, work opportunities that came up because of the technology available, and for the mutual support they received during this time. We also heard from the women that many of them were able to stay in business because of technology, even if they had to offer their services or their products at a reduced rate or even sometimes a free rate. They were able to present a virtual presentation or experience for their customers. And so we were wondering how tech has impacted you or helped you during this time. And if you'd like to leave a comment in the comment box, we'd love to circle back and chat with you about that. We also learned from the women that we talked to that technology helped them be more creative. They actually added aspects into their business that they never expected to, they never had thought about before. And so they were able to use technology in their marketing to attract new or different kinds of customers than they had before. And they really were able to pivot or be agile and meet the needs of the market. For example, some of them offered fitness, yoga, bar, etc. at home, and they had never been doing that before. And we also want to say we understand that using this technology has not always been comfortable or easy, and there was a steep learning curve for many of us, but the women that we spoke to felt that it was really worthwhile to add this dimension to their business. And so again, we're curious for you, has technology helped your business for the better, and how, and will you continue to use it in the future? Finally, the focus groups told us that the biggest lesson they learned is how important it is to have some sort of remote tech setup for their business. That even if, you know, we get out of this pandemic, we are not sure what's going to happen in the future, they all want to have a remote tech piece contingency plan available to them. And this pandemic kind of forced them into that. They got really clever and creative and resourceful, and they were very open to learning new features about technology that maybe they had never even thought to bother with before. So all that said, although we're sure you're very excited to start seeing your clients in person again, even with all of the things you need to do to make that happen, it is important to have some kind of remote capabilities in your business. And how are you going to do that in the future? That's what this module is all about. So in objective 2, the thing that we're talking about in the next few slides is how to be agile when we are responding to a global cultural shift in our economy and in our workplaces. And you might be shifting to fully remote working or partly remote working. And so flexibility is vital as we think about how we want to respond to what's going on with COVID-19, even right now today in June of 2020. So this next objective has us thinking about how technology can be our friend during times like these. We're going to follow a case study of Lola Rainey as she walks us through her journey because she had to pivot from a service offering in person to one online. So meet Lola. She is from upstate New York, and about 2 years ago, she started a franchise business as a personal trainer for a leading fitness club. And then, of course, when COVID started in March, I think that was, there was a date there, March 16th, she had to close her gym overnight. And her franchise had only been open 2 years. And although she was successful and her clients loved coming to her gym, she had to figure out how to service them. And the name of her business is Be Fit, Be Resilient, and it's built on the concept of live, in-person group coaching, which of course you can understand why she had to close down overnight. And of course, in her classes, people are in close physical proximity, and they are there because they love the energy of being around a trainer and other people who are also working out. So suddenly for Lola, this had to change overnight, maybe just like it did for your business. And so she called her corporate headquarters and they brainstormed some ways to help her stay agile. And the first thing that she did on March 14th, actually was the date, she really woke up that morning saying, like, what am I going to do? And she was kind of in a panic. And after she got off the phone with corporate headquarters, she had some ideas. And one of the most important things for Lola was to get herself up off her couch and back out into the world so she could move her body. She kind of heard her own coaching voice. She said, like, get up off the couch and let's go. And so she went down into Clinton Square and she exercised and she stretched and she remembered how good it felt to move her body. And it reminded her that this is what she had to do for her clients. She had to help them keep moving because she's so dedicated to her clients, like you are to yours, right? So she had to figure this out. And so these are some of the strategies that she put in place. She had never had a web presence before. I mean, she had a website and she had social media, but she never had a web presence for her customers. So she strategized how to keep working with her clients so that they did not fall behind. First of all, she set up a Zoom meeting with her team. Before she even talked to her customers, she talked to her team, the other personal trainers, her staff, and they talked about how to reach their clients and their customers through a virtual space and through social media, because her message is health benefits increase when you work out with others. So she knew she had to maintain that. And then just because her customers were sheltering in place doesn't mean they don't want to stay healthy. So she had to figure out how to keep them healthy and engaged. So she and her staff agreed that they would all continue working online using video conferencing so that the customers could participate in on-demand online trainings. The second thing that she did after she talked to her team was she taught virtual live stream classes with lots of different coaches. So it wasn't just Lola, it was her team. She got everybody involved. And they pivoted their customer service delivery model and stayed on course with their business strategy, which was group coaching, group fitness, but they just did it in a virtual way. She rolled out her classes both on YouTube and Facebook. And then she was able to reach people that she wasn't able to reach before because now they were outside of her geographical location. And so over the 100 days plus that she was in the New York pause, and she's in phase 4 reopening, which hasn't happened yet, Be Fit, Be Resilient offered daily Zoom classes also. So her clients had the familiarity of seeing her in the background at her gym, working with their favorite trainer. And although she offered most of these classes for free, she was able to pre-sell some things for when she does reopen. And she was also able to sell some things for gear and workout gear and just goods that she sells. The third thing that Lola did was she focused on building her website during this time, and she leveraged the help of a fully remote company called Team Bonding. They shared their experience with her. So she's now learned she took the time to retool her website and her social media presence, and she used the downtime to say, how am I going to keep using remote technologies in the future? So Lola says that it was really important to her to convert her business into an online powerhouse because her clients have their phone always in their hands. And so she wanted to give them what they needed right there at their fingertips. And she not only wanted to do that for her clients, she also wanted to do it for her team. So she used Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, and she knows that they were just accessing it right from their phones. And this is how Lola kept her business going and stayed agile during this time. So let's keep going and talking about how to create a virtual experience for your customers. So Lola knew that for her customers, the group dynamics and the energy of being around other people was at the heart of her clients' success. So she focused on that kind of virtual experience for them. She also went beyond just offering classes and fitness classes. She actually replaced the happy hours that they used to do in person with virtual happy hours. And she even started a Zoom book club for her clients. And she offered boot camp virtual workouts too. So Lola's advice, and I'll read it to you. Make it an experience to look forward to. Even travel companies created virtual experiences and colleges offered virtual campus tours. We have to think about what our clients need and come up with creative ways to serve them. And that goes back to a really foundational tenet of building a business, which is find the need and fill the need, because entrepreneurs see problems and solve problems. So there's so many ways that your favorite businesses and my favorite businesses and the women we spoke to, there's so many ways that all of these businesses have stayed agile and pivoted during this pandemic. So think about the businesses that you love, the ones that you're still giving your money to, the ones that you're still going to. How did they pivot during this time? Think about how department stores and maybe luxury brand stores, went from being brick and mortar focused to maybe curbside delivery or more of an online presence. How primetime TV shows adapted, that you would see Ellen doing her TV show from her house. Everybody was doing their TV show from their house, right? And that large restaurant businesses were able to still service us with their takeout by curbside delivery and online ordering. There's been so much creativity, even given all the uncertainty. Even these big businesses and small businesses have been able to pivot and be agile. And we are curious how your business has stayed agile and stayed afloat and been pivoting to respond to the customer's needs. Let's move into objective 3. This objective we've talked about all the ideas, right? Like the ideas that are out there and the way other businesses have done this and the way that other women have dealt with this. But now we want to talk about 6 specific categories that will support a business like yours that has chosen to move into the remote space. So I have a lot to read here, so stay with me. If you go to, well, let me start. Many of us have turned to teleconferencing platforms to help us conduct meetings and continue business operations. And some of these are going to sound typical to you. You're very familiar with some of these. Some of these might be new to you. And I'm going to give you a resource at the end here. You'll get a PDF that will allow you to click on these links. But you have access to all of the resources that we have. And Zapier is the one that we took this information from. But in the past, many of these conferencing or these tech services and software were only available for big businesses. But luckily for us, over the course of the last few months, these tools have become readily and sometimes freely available to the general public and the layperson. So we're going to walk through the types of remote tools you could use, and we'll also share our picks, the best picks in each category. So the first one is screen sharing, which is what we're actually doing now. I have my PowerPoint up, and I also have my picture up here because sometimes it's really boring to just hear somebody's voice and just look at a screen. So here I am using my hands and using my face and smiling at you and trying to make this more interesting for screen sharing. Now, there can be a little bit of a learning curve to screen sharing, but it really usually pays off because people love a good face-to-face contact. When you practice and be gentle with yourself, and like, sometimes you'll hear me tonight, like I've already made several blunders and things have flubbed. That's just technology. When you talk through the technology to the people you're sharing your screen with, I have never had a situation where people have been like rolling their eyes. They're always very generous about it. So screen sharing might be a little bumpy, but it can really make all the difference in the world between somebody kind of snoozing and losing out or seeing you face to face or seeing your screen face to face. So you can share with, this is Zoom that we're using. We've also used, you can also use WebEx. Zoom is actually one of my favorite tools. And then you can share notes on a screen. You can share documents. You can share a file. There's like so much you can share with screen sharing, not just face to face. And so we recommend Zoom or WebEx. The second thing you really want to consider, and you may have experienced this, and it may seem like an obvious statement, but having a great, strong internet connection is so helpful. So I'm going to give you my personal example. I was using my old laptop, which is actually what I'm reading from, and then I have my newer laptop here. And when I got my newer laptop, my Zoom connection was so much better. So sometimes it's the web connection, the internet connection, and sometimes it's the actual hardware that you're using. But having great connectivity is an important element to remote management and remote sharing of information. When you hardwire the internet right into your computer, it's such a better connection than Wi-Fi, but most of us are working on Wi-Fi. And you know that sometimes Wi-Fi, we can be at the, at the whim of the
Jen, we lost you.
doesn't work the way we want it to. Other things that you can do are use mobile hotspots. And like I mentioned, you can actually hardwire your computer right into the internet. And that really reduces a lot of frustration and stress. The third thing I want to talk about for technology that's a great example, if your team is constantly sharing information, using Google Docs might be a great way to, a great application for you to just, everybody can get their hands in the document at the same time. So software and applications are basically a catch-all term for any interface that allows you to communicate, write, design, share, like the Microsoft Office suite, for example, or the Apple's suite of software. And so the cool thing about applications is that you can often, with permission, share them with other people so that they can use them too. The fourth thing we're going to talk about, the technologies that are best for helping your business go remote, is workflow. And this is an important thing that I didn't really understand for a long time. You are working with a team and they are remote. And you know, the back and the forth, and which file do you have and which version do you have? And oh, I changed that slide. Do you have that latest slide? It can be really exhausting, like just taking extra time and energy that you don't have. So workflow is a way to manage all of the people working on a software or on a document or on something and keep it tight so that there's not a million versions all over the place. It doesn't have to be scattered like that. The solution is to use a task management and project planning tool. Plus there are reporting and analytics to help you manage the workflow. You can see what's come in, you can see what's gone out. And one of the ones that we're using with this project right here is Microsoft Teams. Everything's in one place, one person manages it, she can see what comes in, she can see what goes out. And it's without all that back and forth of email and texts and messages. It's all in one place. So that understanding the workflow to manage your remote people can save you so much time and energy. The fifth thing that we're going to talk about, and we're only going to touch on it here because it's a future focus for a whole module, is security, which is essential to any business. It's the protection of your data. Cybersecurity is something that we have a lot to say about, but right now we just want to ask you, are your files secure? For example, Zoom was having trouble with people kind of crashing into Zoom meetings. So now almost every Zoom meeting requires a password and has many more protections about who can share screens, etc. Cybersecurity is something that everybody's thinking about. Are you thinking about it? And the last thing that we want to talk about is storage. So think about the exponentially exploding data that is being shared with you, and where are you saving it? You know, are you recording video? Where are you going to save that? One of the things, actually, do I have mine here with me at my computer? Yep. One of the things you might want to consider is an external hard drive that you plug in and put all of your data on. That way it's not taking up space on your hard drive. Of course, you could also use cloud-based storage as another option for this. So if you want more information about the technologies that are available to you, Zapier down here in the corner has a great solution for whatever it is you're looking for. They've tested out a lot of things. So go check that out. Next, we're going to talk about some options to find the right software and services for you. So see, here's the 6 things that I was just talking about. And there are a lot of options depending on your need, what kind of computer you have, what interface you feel comfortable with. So again, in the PDF that you'll get, you can click on all of these and see all of the different ones that work for you. In my conversation with you right now, I've told you about some of my favorites, some of the designer who created this training, some of her favorites, but you want to figure out what's the best for you and for your team, understanding that there's going to be a learning curve and that everybody needs a little bit of time to figure it out. If you can be gentle with yourself, it'll make it easier on everybody. Next, we want to talk about, oops, come on. Sorry, I've got the, I can't get my notes to come up. So digital marketing is a really important piece of sharing your business with other people. And so here we've got some digital marketing resources for you. And there's all different kinds of digital marketing resources, everything from using Google Ads and paying for Google Ads. That's, you know, like if you've seen, you've been reading a blog post or an article and an ad pops up in the middle, that's a Google ad. And then there's all different kinds of digital marketing technology solutions, and even to Yelp, which is a really great place for people to give testimonials and reviews for you, which serve as social proof. So you can check all of these out in the PDF that you're going to get. And you can see that there's at the bottom, there's information about how to use digital marketing. And these are free digital marketing resources available to you right now. Let's talk about how to engage with your team and communicate with them effectively. That's one of the most important things that people are struggling with as they're moving into an online management. My computer just died, so I'm going to be winging it at this point. This quotation is really important. And I think that if we can keep this in mind when we're managing our people, it'll help us manage more effectively. The transition to remote communication removes the personal context that helps us interact with each other. And I want you to think about, have you ever had the experience where you got a text from somebody and you were like, why is she giving me so much attitude? What is happening here? Or, oh, that was a little rude. And it's coming over text, but the way that somebody would have said it to you live wouldn't have been rude. It would have been just fine. That's what this quotation is all about. So as we move to remote transmission of communication with our staff, our employees, and our customers, it's really important that we be mindful of the context in how we talk to people electronically. The most important thing that we need to do with especially with our staff, well, both with our staff and our clients, is build trust and connection with them. So I want you to imagine your business, you own your business, you're managing it from afar, and you've got a whole bunch of people working for you and buying from you. And the thing is, we can't over communicate enough. We tend to think we're bothering people, but really we have to over communicate so that people learn to trust us and themselves as they move through this experience of being in a remote situation. So I'm going to go through these and I'm going to talk about them a little bit. It's important to set expectations for your people. How often should they be checking email? What is an appropriate amount of time before they get back to you? Is 24 hours too long? Is that not enough? What if you don't get back to somebody in 36 hours? So you want to set the expectations for your staff and also for your clients so that they know what to expect from you in regard to communication, behaviors, the types of responses that are okay for you and appropriate. Be organized and flexible. And this is something that all entrepreneurs have to do, but now we have to do it to an extra degree. We have to set things up in advance. We have to have policies set up for ourselves, and we have to let our people know about it. Adapt the length of your meetings. This is something that we can't say enough. People have Zoom fatigue. They're online all day long. And so if you can, if the meeting could be an email, make it an email, right? If you can shorten it, go ahead and shorten it. But managing the length of your meetings will be very important at this point. Find ways to track your workers' progress. And I think we talk about that a little bit more in a future slide, but I'm going to talk about it here just in case we don't get there. Track how people are doing, and how are you going to do that? What is it that you expect your staff and employees to do, and how are you going to know that they are doing it? This is, again, a place where having everything in one spot would be really helpful, or do you want to do emails back and forth? But how are you going to track their progress? Emphasize communication. As humans, a lot of times we really rely on our nonverbal communication, and now we don't really have that available. While you're on a Zoom with somebody, they might be doing something else. They might be zoned out. Their kid might come into the room. So emphasize communication, whether that's written communication or verbal communication. Remember that your job as the leader is to listen. So asking questions and then listening and receiving what people have to say is a vital way that you can build trust with your staff. Building connections and being available to your team is important. How will they know when you're available? How will they know how to get in touch with you? Do you have an open policy of when people can get in touch with you? So be sure that you are letting them know that you're available to them. Provide a way to collaborate. Maybe that's when you have a Zoom call, you have little Zoom rooms, or you give them like a Facebook group, but provide ways for them to interact and collaborate with each other. And then this is a hard one, even on my best day. Resist the urge to micromanage. This is a time when you're really going to have to learn to trust them, and they're going to have to learn to trust you. And again, this is a work in progress, right? So resisting the urge to micromanage. We're going to talk about this a little later on, but understanding that you're managing not by like how many hours they're putting in, or are they sitting at their desk from 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever it is, but are they getting the job done, and how are you knowing that they get the job done? And then remember to celebrate success with them, that it's not just like move on to the next thing and move on to the next thing. Let them know that you see them, because all people want is to be seen and heard. Okay. I am back up with my second computer and I have my notes back, so I'm not winging it anymore. Okay, let's go into the next piece. So the CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control, reports that teleworking is one of the most effective ways that we as owners of businesses and leaders can reduce the spread of COVID-19. So if you are remote working, or you have some of your staff remote working, you are doing such a service for all of us. So thank you so much. But teleworking may be new to you, and as I've said, it may be new to some of your employees. And although many organizations have done teleworking for years, if this is new to you, let's talk about ways to make it work. The first thing I want to talk about is a focus on results. And I hinted at this a little bit in the past slide, but there are companies out there that have perceived teleworking or remote working as not real work because they can't monitor what their staff is doing. Like, are they sitting at their desk from 9 to 5? Well, probably not, especially right now, right? But evidence shows that working from home can actually be much more productive for people. And this is partly due like that they don't have to commute and they don't have to travel. And it's also partly due to thinking about how much less time is spent, you know, around the proverbial water cooler. But it's a real savings in time. And so this is why it's vital for managers to embrace this and change their mindset on it and start to focus on results and deliverables rather than where time was spent and how time was spent. So your job, and a way that you can really start to make this easier for yourself and your staff, is to change your mindset to manage by results. And I love that phrase, manage by results, because if you can communicate the expectations to your staff of what needs to get done, how it needs to look, and when it needs to get done, that will really make it clear to them what they need to do. And then they're focused on deliverables. Then they're focused on action. They're focused on work completed and deadlines rather than just kind of clocking in hours. So for larger projects, one of the things you're going to want to do is develop milestones and performance indicators to help your staff know what's happening along the way. The next thing we want to focus on to help you make the best of this situation is to continually evolve. Remote work and best practices are constantly changing. We're constantly finding new technologies, even within the technologies we use, like Zoom, for example. Even within this technology that we know and love, it's constantly changing on us. They're always adding features. So understand that sometimes due to the needs of your business that are changing, sometimes due to the technology, you might need to switch things up, add something in, take something out. And again, this is all about over communicating to your staff what's happening, why it's happening, and how it's happening. And give everybody some grace time to figure it out, because they will with some training and some support. But again, your job is to be the person who's kind of leading the charge in this. Next is when you schedule team meetings, think about the people who need to hear from you. They need to hear from you more than once a week. And it doesn't, again, to go back to the idea of team meetings don't need to be an hour and a half, 2 hours, or even an hour, but how are you checking in with your people on a regular basis? So and in those meetings, it can really help you to ask your team members to talk about what have they completed, what are their wins, what are their challenges, and kind of brainstorm with them how you can help. Additionally, encourage group chats. And we've talked about a lot of ways to do that. Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Skype. I didn't mention Skype before. Those allow your team members to see each other because they probably miss each other and engage in conversations virtually. So we want people to be able to connect, see each other's faces, maybe get some nonverbal cues, maybe be able to chat on the side, but give them the opportunity to see each other. Additionally, there are lots of opportunities for non-visual, like this, non-visual communication and connection, like Slack is a great one. WhatsApp is a texting tool that's not actually texting. Messenger on Facebook is another one, but there are a lot of ways that people can stay connected. Encourage your people to stay connected. Next to last, information sharing. This is a way that your people can be more productive. So teamwork in a mobile environment requires that clarity and expectations are a priority. So remember, if one person on your team, even one person, is teleworking, that means the entire team is teleworking, because we have to include that person. So remember that the needs of a business may make it difficult to follow a proposed mobile arrangement. So that's why always being transparent and revisiting the plan and talking about the plan, because things change so much, is a priority. So share information. And last but not least, the little things matter. And an example of mobile communication practices might be understanding something simple, like how to forward your business phones to your cell phones, or using your office's online chat or instant messenger feature to communicate with people. Go back to that Zapier resource and learn more about the features that are available in some of these options for you. But it seems like the little things, but they really make such a big difference. Let's move on to objective 5. We're going in a nice clip. So in the last section, we talked about remote management and the important skills to cultivate, even if this isn't second nature to you. And we want to honor that. Like, it's okay if this feels hard or like a pain in the neck, but it really can benefit your business and your employees if you embrace some of these best practices. But successful remote management is sustained through creating trusting relationships, setting up clear expectations, implementing team building activities. And this is like extra stuff that you may not have had to do before because everybody was just in each other's presence. But active listening with frequent communication is important. These are all important things to do now to an extra degree. The next few slides, we're going to talk about some specific best practices that you can implement to help you manage well remotely. The first one is to so we've got 4 things here I'm going to cover. These are ideas for managing a mobile workforce. The first one is to stop thinking about it as you versus them or you and them, and to think about this as a team endeavor. So it's not really a top-down thing. The first thing that is vital, and a lot of people forget to do this one, is to facilitate conversations to identify norms and protocols. So for example, if you were going to say, the only way that I really need to hear from you is via the WhatsApp software or the WhatsApp app, and somebody texts you on your phone and somebody sends you a Facebook Messenger, they're not doing what you asked, right? And you don't want to be trying to navigate messages from all these different places. So go back to the norms and the protocols that you set up in the beginning. Thanks for the text. I can't respond to it here. Put it in the WhatsApp so everybody can see it, and then I can respond to it. Thanks for the Messenger message. I can't respond to it because I really want everybody to see it. So please put it in the WhatsApp app. So constantly directing people back to the norms and protocols that you established in the beginning. It's important for team working, for teleworking as a team, to communicate what this means with your team. Like, you can bring them into the process and have a conversation about it with them. Invite feedback from them. They might have better ideas than we do as business owners, right? So give people the voice and the chance to say, hey, this isn't really working for me. I found this software. Can we try it? That will also help you build trustworthy relationships that we talked about in the beginning part, right? And then come to see this as an opportunity to build trust between management and employees. Like, this doesn't have to be something that's viewed as negative or hard or pain in the neck. It can really be something that moves your business into the future, because modern employees are mobile. They want to be mobile. They are mobile. Trust them to do their job. Trust them to perform once you've set up the norms and procedures, and you're setting them up for success with clarity and expectations. Let them show you what they can do. Okay. The second best practice for remote workers to manage them, is to monitor their performance. And so, how are they doing? You've told them what to do. You've told them when you'll be available. How are they doing? So host check-in opportunities for them to give feedback among each other and having you there. Also, if you have a remote team and an in-person team, having them all talk to each other is really important. You want to, this is an important one to monitoring performance, especially remotely. You want to hold your employees accountable fairly and promptly, because you know how things are. You're like, oh, it's fine this time. Oh, it's fine this time. Oh, it's fine this time. And then it's not fine anymore, right? So you want to make sure you don't let things slide off or push them down. It only gets harder to address. So when something isn't working, address it promptly and directly, but with neutrality. And you'll find that, again, that builds trust and relationships. You want to squash the notion of a telework schedule, because frankly, we really know what it's like to work from home. You know, like my dog is laying right here and he's probably going to bark at something that comes up, or the kids are going to come in, or something's going to happen where I get pulled away. So go back to that managing by results mentality. Remind yourself of that. You might even want to put a sticky note on your computer. I'm managing by results rather than managing by time. And Encourage your employees and your teams to be mobile when it makes the most sense. So does it make sense for you to work from home 3 days a week? Encourage people to do that and see it as an opportunity for your business and for your team members. Again, going back to monitoring performance really requires you to make it clear what you're looking for and how they're supposed to communicate that with you. And then commit, and I spoke about this a little bit before, commit to an acceptable communication time frame. You know, if you've got one person on your task, on your workforce who, you know, takes a week to get back for email, and that's just not helpful for you guys, or she's not showing up in the WhatsApp app and she's just kind of doing her own thing, that's something that needs to be addressed for you, because it's hard to monitor performance when somebody's not responsive. So you have to set the norms so that everybody knows what's acceptable. The third piece of managing remote workers, best practices that we're going to talk about, is using technology. So your job is to create clear definitions of objectives and performance indicators. Do your employees know what's expected of them? That's on you. Oops, I think I messed this up a little bit. I messed that up a little bit. Sorry about that. I want to express we're going to talk about using technology. So technology gives us the ability to collaborate and be transparent. So what is the technology that you want to use with your staff to be able to share documents, calendars, data, and like even memos, right? Make sure that everyone is proficient in the technology and is aware of the tools that we're all using. And if they're not proficient, then they need training on that and they need time to do the training. Who's going to do that? Where's the time going to come from? This is an interesting one. Design meetings for both in-office and virtual employees by establishing a phone bridge and using online meeting tools so that everybody can all be together at the same time. It can be done. You can do meetings with people in person and via Zoom or Skype at the same time. Using technology like email, voicemail, away messages, desk signage, shared calendars, and instant messaging can really inform your community, but also inform the clients that you serve when you're available, who's available to them, and when to come back to find them. So that can help with like the presence of somebody or the status that their work status. And then you can have a conversation. How do you think we could be doing this better? How can we enhance your performance in a mobile situation? Now I want to talk to managing by results, the last piece of managing remote workers. And I want to go back to this idea that your job is to create clear definitions of the objectives that people are supposed to meet and performance indicators. That is your job, setting those up. It's not for them to figure that out. And your job is to monitor, or the manager's job is to monitor deliverables closely and provide training so that they can continue to be successful. What works best for you to do that? Which type of software? What frequency of communication? You might find that this is a little bit of a sliding scale. So you might start out really like meeting every single day and say, that's too much, let's go back to 3 days a week. Know that the more you can be flexible and observant, the better it's going to be to develop the trust in the relationships. Don't confuse activity with results. This is very simple to say and very difficult to remember. So remember that your people, what you're looking for them are from them are results. And allow them to focus on the work to be completed and consider the needs of them when they are teleworking, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Think about how much stress is on your staff and yourself, not just with the work that you're doing, but you have people probably at home with you. And if you don't have people at home with you, you've been really, really isolated. All of us are dealing with some kind of stressor beyond our work. And it's important for you to remember that there's a work-life integration happening here. And the last thing I'm going to say is to emphasize to your staff your continued dedication to achieving results and your continued dedication to helping them meet and exceed expectations. So this is really like a team-oriented way to approach management. Okay. Here's a little note about how to rally people who are dispersed. So if COVID-19 has taught us anything, it's to expect the completely unfathomable. We must be prepared to use technology to trigger alerts, notifications, or to rally any geographically dispersed remote force. So whether that's for a natural disaster or a travel incident that has happened, something like this may affect your workforce. COVID-19 has shown us that this is something we need to be able to deal with and be agile with. Having a protocol in place is necessary. So do you have a protocol in place? Put a protocol in place, and then run the drill, run the protocol to see how well it works. Where are the holes? What needs to be fixed? Who needs to be in charge of it? Running a drill like this can really help you see whether your safety processes are effective, whether you can reach all the people you need to reach, and how to fix it if it's not working ahead of time. Here are some tips to engage your team during a pandemic like this while they are not only teleworking, but they are also under stress. Remember that people are coping with being alone. They're coping with the stress and unsureness of what's next. They're coping with loss. They're worried, they're anxious, right? And so here are some tips from a culture building firm, because the beautiful thing about this training is we haven't made this stuff up in our head. We've gone and we've found primary sources to help you. So some things that you can do, you can read them here. I'm just going to quickly read through them. It can be helpful for your team to hear uplifting news and share breakthroughs about the virus. It's important that you're using primary sources or news sources that are trustworthy, because sometimes often hearsay can cause people to get into more of an emotional storm for themselves. You want to shine the spotlight on your remote employees, because they are doing the best that they can from afar, and they probably feel pretty isolated and like removed from everything. I was in a meeting recently where a woman on our team said, I just feel like I don't know what's happening. And that was really on the leader. Like, she had to do a better job of communicating with everybody. So keep people in the loop. Sharing good news from within and giving a shout out to those who have done something spectacular is a wonderful way to not only develop your relationship, foster goodwill, but also develop your trust. So I'm going to stop here and just say there's a lot of options for you. And if you click down at the bottom, they explain all of them for you. And they're just fun ways to help engage your team and remind you that they are people, and remind them that you're a person too. So going back to our group focus sessions, a lot of the women emphasized the struggle that they had working from home with children around and significant others around. Other women that I've talked to are struggling with the opposite. They might be single or living alone, and they struggle with the isolation and loneliness of it. There are also additional life, financial, and health challenges that bring added stress. Lastly, but not least, many of us miss the personal connections. Like, being around other people can really cause some people to feel really low. So as a manager, we wanted to remind you that your job is to create a personal context with your staff, your employees, your team, whatever it is you call them, to be emotionally intelligent and look at the bigger picture of what's going on with them. Be attentive to their work-life balance and their mental health. And we're not saying this is easy to do. We're just saying it's something that can really benefit your team and your business. Now, in the next slide, I'm not going to show you this. This is an entire webinar all about how you as an employer can support the mental health of your remote workers. I think it's about 50 minutes, but it's very specific and gives you some tools. So this might be a resource that you spend some time looking at, or that you give somebody on your team the task of looking at, so that they can share back to the rest of the staff. This objective is important, and we're going to talk about how to define policies for remote work, because it's not just something, it's not just about the tools. It's not just about like what you said you wanted. It's about really creating a procedure and a policy so that everybody knows what to expect. So Jane Sparrow, who's a remote work expert, says it's not just a matter of providing remote workers with a new video communication platform and assuming it will be business as usual. I think if there's anything you can take away from this training, it's that we can't assume anything. We can't assume that our workers understand what the outcome should be. We can't assume that they know how to use the software or the hardware. We can't assume that they can see the future. We can't assume that they're talking to each other, right? So it's up to us to make sure we do more than assume. And so a remote work policy is an agreement that basically says, here's when my employees can work, here's what it should look like. And again, these policies can be temporary or they can be permanent. They're open for change. Remote work policies describe who can work remotely, because sometimes in an office or a situation, not everybody can work remotely. What are the best practices to follow, and what are the legal rights of remote employees? That's another important thing to consider. And then a remote work policy is essential for organizations with any remote workers. That's even if you have one remote worker, you need a remote work policy, especially important for those people who are getting started with remote work. The key components of a remote work policy, it doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be long, but here they are. Determine how your employees will work remotely. You want to provide the right tools, technology, maybe ergonomic furniture, whatever means of communication. That is something that you have to provide for them. You have to make sure they understand it. And you also need to establish clear rules about working from home. What are they able to do? What is not acceptable? You want to plan in time during the week to collaborate and socialize. We've already talked about that. And we talked about how touch points are so important. So maybe more frequent short touch points versus one big touch point at the end of the week or the end of the bi-weekly session. So that can be, if you have more touch points, you are giving them more of an opportunity to see each other. Define your remote work policy must define the legal rights that remote workers have, as well as the compensation and the benefits that your employees will receive. Objective 7 is all about the future and how teleworking might help you in the future. So this is really interesting. This is from 2017, 3 years before the COVID-19 pandemic. At that time in America, 43% of employees work remotely in some capacity. So this is probably a bigger number than you anticipated. And the reason that people, well, let me back up. There are many times where an employee will choose to take a job based on the available flexible scheduling and work from home opportunities. So consider that as we move into the future is remote, the future is mobile. And so that this opportunity for your employees and your future employees being able to work remotely might be the thing that helps them take the job or not take the job. And employees, especially modern employees, are pushing companies to break down the long established structures that have said you need to come to the office, you need to work from 9 to 5, and all of the things that have influenced a traditional workday. So this is where we're headed in the future. So how can you start to imagine teleworking in your future? Well, right now, we haven't really had a lot of options, but you've had to get creative and you have gotten creative. How can you continue to allow remote working to go on where possible to keep employees safe, maybe to save time, maybe to be more effective, maybe to be happier in their jobs? So don't be so quick to shut down the opportunity or the possibility of teleworking in your future. Another thing that some companies are doing are they are staggering weeks. But some people come in, half the workforce comes into the office, the other half works from home, and then they swap the next week. That's really something that people are implementing right now. And also the other thing that people are doing is part-time remote work on alternate days so that not everybody's in the office at the same time. But for these to be effective, you have to set up all of the foundations that we discussed earlier. Also, responding to employee requests to continue working from home, and that might even include long-term arrangements, consider that. Are the people who are working from home right now, teleworking, are they getting the results that you want them to get? Are they meeting the expectations that you're setting? If so, how can it benefit them and you and your business for them to keep working from home? Additionally, updating technology as needed to support virtual workers. That might be an investment in researching and in time and effort and money that you need to make. Analyzing long-term cost savings or the impact of offering permanent remote work. This is something that you have to do. This is a big picture item where you can sit down and really map out, how much am I paying in overhead? How much am I paying in having the cleaning services come in versus having permanent remote work for some or all of your workforce. And so I'm curious, have you really thought about how you could reimagine teleworking, remote working, working from home in your future for your business? Have you sat down and let your brain kind of wander around and say, what's possible? Have you changed your mindset about managing from a place of results rather than managing from a place of time spent? These are all worthwhile ways for you to spend some time dreaming and scheming in your business to imagine how your business could continue to grow in new ways, even after the COVID-19 pandemic is over. So here's a learning check. We covered a whole bunch of things today. I'm going to go through this quickly. At least 40% of employees already work remotely in some capacity, which that might be really shocking to you. And if it is, I thought it was kind of amazing. I don't think I knew that 40% do that. Working remotely only requires a good internet connection and the right technology. False. We talked a lot today about how much it requires communication and expectation setting and software. It's beyond software. I mean, it's like there's so much more to it. There's the human side of remote working that's important. Automation tools are like robots. They take care of repeat tasks. We didn't talk about that very much, but there are a lot of automation tools. For example, there's schedulers out there, there's autoresponders, there's a lot of things out there to help you automate tasks that are just like a waste of time for humans to do. Email is an example of team chat application. This is false. And the reason is team chats happen synchronously at the same time. Email is asynchronous. Email is I send you an email, maybe 2 days later you get it, you respond, it goes kind of like that. But chat applications happen in real time. That's one of the differences. Number 5 is screen sharing allows you to show others your desktop and the files and apps you have open, but you have to be in the same room. And that's not true at all. People on screen sharing can only see what you show them, and you have to give them permission. Updated versions of Microsoft and Google Docs allows you to share a file with others and have them add comments or make their own edits, and you can watch it all happen in real time. That is 100% true. Again, though, only with people that you allow to see the document. So don't be afraid that somebody's going to get their hands on your document. You only hand over permissions to people that you trust. Number 7 is encryption software scrambles data so that even if it gets into the wrong hands, thieves won't be able to read your files without the encryption key or password. This is true, and we didn't talk about this very much here, but it's definitely something you want to keep in mind as you move more into the remote world. So we covered a lot, and there's more that you can still learn about remote working. Obviously, this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. And we talked about the lessons learned by women that we've talked to at WISE for focus groups. We talked about how to consider pivoting or shifting your business to take it online. We talked about 6 types of technology solutions, which ones you need to look into, which ones you may already have, which ones might work for you. We talked about the guidelines for engaging and communicating with your staff during a remote work situation and how important that is. We also talked about ways to not only communicate with them, but to manage them. And we really talked about that managing by results option. That's really a mindset shift. Number 6 was, we talked about the 6 components of a remote work policy. And that's not that confusing. That's pretty straightforward and easy. It probably will just take a little bit of time and thinking to do, but it's not complicated. And then number 7 is insights into future remote work and why you may want to consider future remote work as part of your business model. Additional resources are here. Again, when you get the PDF, you can see how much more there is to learn. And there's so many resources here for people who want to learn more about really how to make remote working work for them, their business, and their employees. So here again are all the things that we covered. We covered a lot in an hour and 6 minutes. We are here for you if you have questions. This is the WISE team of counselors here. There is Barb Stone, Sarisa Richardson, and Lacey Roy Cicerillo. These counselors are here to answer your very specific questions. This is all free of charge to you because WISE is supported by the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and also a grant from Syracuse University. Now, these women are trained in everything that we are talking about today, and they can help you. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, confused, you're just not sure what's right for your business, please contact one of these 3 counselors. And you can do that by calling 315-443-8634 or emailing wisecenter@syr.edu. What I want to say about WISE, it's an amazing resource for women. We are so lucky to have one in Syracuse. There's only 116 of these WISE, well, women business centers, but ours is called WISE. There's only 116 of them in America, and we have one. And how amazing is that? So please use them. And if you have any further questions, reach out to them. Additionally, you can see that we have many more trainings coming up. Module 3 is next that's talking about finances, and we have modules up to module 7 and talking about all the things from cyber security, finances, funding, all of that stuff. So be on the lookout. Now, the best thing that you can do is to share this information with somebody that you know needs it. It's obviously free to you, it's free to them, and we would love to get this information in the hands of as many people as possible. Thank you so much for hanging in with me. My name is Jen Liddy, and I am a trainer for WISE. And thanks for putting up with all my technological glitches and me falling over my words sometimes tonight. I really appreciate that. I'll talk to you in the next module. Bye.